Dear Mr. President, we believe that our most important issue that our country faces today is healthcare. Here's why.
We have a problem with healthcare in this country. That just has to be acknowledged. I mean, we spend the most and get the least. We have excellent quality care, but we have 47 million Americans who don't have access to care. The healthcare bill extended access to over 30 million people.
Recent healthcare plans has caused much disagreement. One main disagreement involves Obama's Affordable Health Care Act. Many people are fond of the act, while others completely disagree with it, considering it unconstitutional. An overwhelming amount of concern has also been directed towards the predicted cost of future healthcare. We decided to see what the public thought about Obama's Affordable Health Care Act, so we interviewed people who were intelligent in this field.
What is the Affordable Health Care Act?
Well, it is a law that was passed recently by Congress at the promotion of President Obama that has changed the way certain aspects of healthcare are delivered in America.
The idea behind it was trying to figure out how to cover more people with health insurance, because the United States stands alone as the only civilized country, the only industrialized country that doesn't have some kind of universal health care.
It's a federal program which requires all citizens to purchase health care. It's basically federalization of the entire healthcare industry in the United States.
The way I understand it, it is so that everybody in the United States can have affordable health care. There's been a lot of people out there who have not been able to afford it. This gives everybody the opportunity to have access to it.
It reduces the amount of reimbursements allowed for doctors and hospitals. It dictates what insurance companies must provide, like in terms of pre-existing conditions, requiring that children be covered under their parents' policies until age 26.
The initial intention was it was going to cover 30 to 35 million of those 50 million uninsured, so it's going to cover more than half. It was never intended or designed to cover everybody.
What are some advantages and disadvantages of this new Healthcare Act?
Well, I'm not sure there are very many actual advantages when you weigh the cost versus the benefits, but a few of the positives that the supporters were trying to push through. One is that everyone could have access to health care.
Now you cannot be denied health care insurance if you have a previously existing sickness. Typically, healthcare insurers have been able to say, no, when you came to us, you already had diabetes or whatever, and so we aren't going to cover it. But this says they can't do that anymore, that they have to take you into their program.
Because our current system hasn't worked. It's a failure. So the good thing about it is it can expand coverage.
The downsides are many, one of which is it is probably unconstitutional for the government to tell you to buy something. The Supreme Court did not rule that it's unconstitutional, but there is pretty good reason to believe that the Supreme Court was going to rule that it was unconstitutional.
Unfortunately, there'll be some companies that will make the calculation that it's cheaper to drop their employees' healthcare coverage and pay them a fine. It'll keep some companies from hiring because of the limit on the number of employees and employee work hours. For example, a recent company announced that they were going to reduce the hours of their workers down to 29, because if a larger company has workers that work 30 hours or more, they must be included in provide certain kinds of healthcare insurance. So this large company, which I'll not name, has already told its employees that they will reduce the number of full-time employees and increase the number of part-time employees, and the part-time employees will only work 29 hours a week.
I think some of the disadvantages may be for some of your smaller businesses trying to be able to provide said health care to their employees. some of the small businesses, it's going to be difficult for them to afford that.
Why is healthcare such a big issue?
Well, primarily because of the cost. It's more expensive than we can reasonably afford at this point, and it is something that not everybody has at this point. And so, there are people who argue that we have the best healthcare system in the world, and that even though it's imperfect, we should live with its imperfections because of the quality of the care we get. There are other people who argue that we don't have the best healthcare system in the world, that in fact there are important things about our society that are not as good as some others. We don't live as long as some societies. Our infant mortality rate is higher than some societies. There are some of these kind of statistics that suggest our healthcare system actually is not so great. So if we're paying too much and not getting enough, then that's a pretty big deal, because it impacts not only the length of people's lives, but the quality of their lives. Because if they're sick and can't get healthcare, they could be in pain. They could suffer from all kinds of conditions, depression, and who knows what all, without any resource to help them. So it's important both financially and in terms of the quality of our lives.
Well, everybody needs health care, and because it's so expensive, and because so many people are not insured and wait to get their health care when they need it by going to the emergency room, it puts a huge burden on the entire system. So it's not like you can live your whole life without using it at all, but it is a very important benefit.
It's been such a big issue because so many people haven't been able to afford it, and people who can't afford the health insurance will not go to the doctor to seek medical treatment just to maintain their regular well-being, and then they can end up becoming sick or ill, and they don't seek treatment until they're so far gone, and then they end up needing more treatment because they couldn't go in the first place.
I want to get to a point someday where we cover everybody in this country. I mean, that's what they do in Germany and France and Spain and England and Australia and New Zealand, all over the world.
Healthcare is a serious problem and should be the most important issue that you consider this year, because America needs a bill that will make healthcare more available, but also help lower our deficit. Sincerely, Andrew, Jacob, and Gabe.